Welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the experience, decision that shape who we have become. Today, the guest is Brenda Bridge, a divorce mediator and certified divorce financial analyst, who help individuals navigate one of life's most difficult transitions with clarity, confidence, and intention. After going through a challenging divorce herself, Brenda is now on a mission to help others move through the process differently without losing themselves, their peace, and their future. It's really a pleasure having you on the show, Branda.
I'm really excited to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Also, Branda, can you take us back to the experience? What was that divorce season like for you, and how did it shape who you are today?
That's a really good question. It was a very traumatic experience, I would say, as it is for most. Research shows that it is the second most traumatic experience people go through in their lives. So it's pretty serious. I had been married quite a long time. And looking back, I probably shouldn't have been, but I was surprised when my husband walked in and said he wanted a divorce. So I wasn't prepared. And really, what the process was like is at the very beginning, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what first steps to take. I didn't know who to go to. There's a lot of shame wrapped around it because it feels like you failed rather than transition. When you get caught up in a system and you don't know how to navigate it and you don't know what steps to take, it's really easy to let the process take over and kind of become a runaway train where you're not feeling as though you're empowered to take control of it or make good decisions. There's a lot of support, I believe, that's lacking. It was for me. And that's one of the things that I try to give to other people so they don't find themselves in that same position. But divorce really does, it turns your life upside down. It takes the finances of one household and splits it to support two. For children, it can be very devastating. At the very least, it's a huge adjustment because now they're not living in one house. Their parents aren't together. Everything for them from that point forward will be divided.
So, what was the hardest part of transitioning from being a stay-at-home mom into rebuilding your independence?
I had already started working again because my husband lost his job before we got divorced. So I was back in the workforce, but I was 50 years old and starting a new career
Yeah.
as a financial advisor. So that in and of itself was challenging. It was a totally new career. It wasn't as though I was going back to work in something that I had done before. It was brand new to me. So I had that on one hand to deal with. I had not, prior to that year before divorce, been working outside of the home in quite some time. So there's a lot of fear wrapped up in it with, am I going to be able to make ends meet? And this is really common among women to feel like, oh my goodness, am I going to be living under a bridge and eating cat food? Am I going to live in a box? Because there's so much fear if you haven't been working, even if you understand money, and many women or women who are like the gray divorce area haven't done the finances for the household. So I would say the biggest bucket to dump everything in was fear. Just the unknown. What's going to happen? How am I going to do this? And it's also a very lonely time because you're used to having someone that you come home to, that you share things with. You're used to having a person. And I wouldn't say, wonderful relationships, wonderful marriages don't end in divorce. So I wouldn't say I had a fabulous marriage, but I did have a partner in parenting. I had a partner who I could come home and talk to. And in that transition post-divorce, it can be really lonely because even if it wasn't a wonderful relationship, you had someone to go to. So then when you're coming out on the other side and kind of remaking your life, there are a lot of sections. It's not just your relationship with your partner and what you do relationship-wise or romantically. There's a lot of friend and community fallout. People don't necessarily know how to treat you, where you fit in, what to do with you.
Yeah.
So if you were part of a group of couples and now you're a single, you might be excluded. I found that. So then you have to really make an effort to reshape your life, and you're finding new friends. You're building a new career. You're deciding at some point, are you going to look for another relationship? And you're doing all of that while, in many cases, You're trying to be a decent parent to your children when you're going through all of that, if you
Yeah.
still have kids at home. And you're trying to figure out how to have a stable financial space so that you are secure as you move forward and you can make a new plan. So I think all of those things, to a greater or lesser degree, impact everyone going through divorce and
Yeah.
what it looks like.
Yeah. It's really a whole lot of things that just the way you said, more like you have a trusted person before who you could actually basically talk to about your day, about everything that's going wrong, and yeah, and now having no one. Yeah, it's really a whole lot. Was there a defining moment where you realized you needed to approach divorce and life differently?
I don't think I had that tipping point or realization until my divorce was done.
Mm,
Because, as I said kind of in the beginning, you get swept up in this process and you're told, this is how it works, this is what you have to do. And for me, it wasn't until after that I looked back and went, that was crazy. Why is that okay? And why is it okay for other people to be basically, you're told that these professionals, the attorneys, the court, if you go to court, mediators, financial advisors, divorce coaches, who are all involved in this divorce process, just follow them. And they've been through it before, and you haven't been through it before. So you don't know what steps to take. So a lot is contingent on who you have on your team, what people you're listening to. And there can be a position of feeling like, and I hear this from clients all the time, I don't know what to do. They either don't tell me or explain what's happening, or they say, you just don't worry, I've got this, do what I tell you to do. But it's the person who's getting divorced, their life. So rather than just saying, as professionals, sit down, be quiet, listen to me, I got this, I'm going to do it. After my divorce, I looked back and thought what I really would have loved, what I really need, and what I would really like to provide to other people as someone who can say, here's how this works. Here's the information you need. Here are the decisions you're going to need to make. Now let's make sure you're comfortable making them. Let's make sure you understand the impact of them. You'd be amazed how frequently people come to me and say, I was in mediation with my attorney and my spouse made an offer and my attorney said, oh, that's good, you'll get something, with absolutely, right, exactly. And something could have been a lot or little, had no context. So people are making these really big family and financial decisions without anyone putting meaning to it for them. And then they
yeah.
feel like they're flying blind. And that is like during my divorce, I didn't have an aha moment where I went, oh, here's when I take control and here's when I start making good decisions. Rather, it was when it was done that I went, wow, I wish I had had someone supporting me in making good decisions and understanding and taking control. And I felt that was really lacking. And I think for most people, at least around here, who go through divorce, there's a big feeling of, I don't understand what's happening. I don't know the next step. I don't know how to prepare. And more, people go online and they'll get in chat groups. So I think it's one thing if you go online and do research with professionals who can give you good information. And it's quite another thing if you go into a Facebook group with a bunch of people who have gone through divorce or are going through it. They don't know you. They have no idea what your situation is, maybe than the little paragraph that you write. They
Yeah.
don't live where you live. They haven't walked in your shoes, and they're giving you advice as to what you have to do. And it's all very adamant. And if you look at that, a lot of it is really bad advice that can cause your divorce process to go south really quickly. Ideally, as people are going to continue to get divorced. People get divorced. No one sets out wishing it would happen, but a lot of people find themselves in that position. So, given that, I guess my call is how do we make it a better, more structured, less expensive, less time consuming and damaging process for people? And that's
Yeah.
what came out of my divorce afterwards, really thinking through how can we make this better? It's bad enough, it's hard enough. Why do we have to layer on all these unknowns, this lack of support? this incredibly expensive cost and taking up a lot of time. Why can't we figure out a way? And I think there are ways. I know there are ways to fix that process. And
Yeah,
that came after, that was after divorce for me. I wish I had known that when I went through
yeah,
divorce. If
yeah.
I knew then what I know now, it would have been entirely different.
Yeah, this is really amazing being that you have gone through it and the fact that yeah, there's a whole lot of things that actually happen in the background that you wish you have known better. Someone would have guided you through it. And it's that particular part you're actually helping a whole lot of persons. Yeah, go through it now without actually more like on that. It's amazing. So what role did identity play in your journey, especially after such major life challenge?
Oh, that's a really good question. It was a total identity switch. I mean, my identity was first and foremost mom to my kids, and then associated with being married and the life we had built in our community. And then I was somewhere down the road. I was down the list of importance or priority. And I think you go through a big identity shift because you do need to start thinking about yourself. Your kids are going to grow up and move away. You're no longer in that relationship. My identity went from being mom and wife to I'm an individual woman in middle age, starting a new career. How do I navigate this? It's a lot of new things being presented to you. I was going to say thrown at you, but that sounds kind of negative. You're facing
Yeah,
a lot of new challenges. And the longer you've been married, the more entrenched you're in that.
thank you so much for sharing. So how do you balance out the emotional side of divorce with the practical reality like finance and parenting?
Another really good question. I think if you spend time either yourself thinking through or getting good support in thinking through the why behind the decisions you're making, that allows you to address your emotions. Often in divorce, people will take a position or they want something because they want to win. But as you dig deeper, they might not want to win. They might want to be seen because they didn't feel seen in their marriage. Or they might be operating from shame or fear for whatever reason. But there's an emotion behind that. Like that need to win doesn't stand free and clear. There is a lot of emotion behind it. And if we look at why you feel the way you do, why you're making the decisions that you are, then sometimes people stick to it and say, yep, that's how I feel. And it is, I understand my emotions behind it and I'm good with it. And other times people, and this happens often, when they're going through divorce and their financial decisions or their family decisions, they'll be very positional. And then when you start digging into the why of it, sometimes it might be that their partner had an affair and they just want to hurt them because they were hurt. And once they could see that, then they can understand that's their motivation and often get past it and say, that's not really serving me, that emotion. So what might? What do I need to really worry about? What are my real
Yeah,
concerns? Once I get through the easy to feel ones of anger and rage and bitterness and fear. What's under that? So, as a kind of long answer to your question, I think the way to balance emotions and the factual, logical decisions is to understand why you're making them, like why you have that position, and give time and space for it. Don't like plow through and think, I'm going to do this logically, because it's a really emotional time. So if you ignore those emotions, they're going to come out sideways at some time, and we don't know when, because it's like a pressure cooker. They're just going to keep building up until they explode. So if you're giving yourself the time and space to process and understand how you're feeling, you're going to get better decisions, and they're going to be based on understanding and information instead of emotions that aren't acknowledged.
yeah, giving times to process a whole lot of things and taking action from that end, other than when you get to sit down to look at it deeply. Amazing. Thank you
Mhm.
so much all for sharing. So when you reflect on your journey now, what do you think truly helped you reclaim your life?
I think good friends and relationships who stayed by my side and did
Mm,
not have the expectation that I would be the same as I was, because it changes you. That made a big difference. And there were people who I knew who stepped into my life as support in unexpected ways. And that helped me move through it and move on. I think distance and time is also a lot. When you're in the thick of it, it's hard to see past the process, it's hard to understand what's next or have goals, and letting things settle and having space to think about, I really am restarting my life. What do I want it to look like now? Having that was really empowering. Like divorce, people think, it's bad, it's awful, it's terrible, and it can be. And there can be a flip side that's very bright and empowering where maybe you were in a relationship that was really imbalanced and you lost yourself a little bit. Post divorce, there might be space to rediscover what's important to you instead of being part of that couple or that relationship being the most important thing in your life. That can be really fulfilling. And that can really, I think, help people reframe what's important to them. But a lot of it is space and not expecting, like, it's not saying don't have any expectations of yourself, but let yourself have some breathing room. You've gone through or are going through something that is really serious and impactful and sometimes traumatic. Don't put on your little happy face and say, I'm fine, I got this, no change, all good, because we do that as people too much. I got it, I'm fine. It's okay to not be fine. It's okay to be figuring things out. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have emotions that are new to you. Like, give yourself grace. I would say the biggest, if I had to put it into one phrase, I would say give yourself grace as you go through this.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Give yourself grace. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing the whole of this. So, lastly, diving into the work you do now. So, how do you help couples navigate co-parent decision in a way that protects the children and reduce conflict?
It's a process that I developed called informed mediation, and I looked at all the different ways you can divorce, the different processes, and what is good about these and what is not so good about these, and tried to come up with a plan for people navigating divorce where they would know what's happening next, they would know what they're spending on the process, they would know the decisions that they make, thus the informed. It's basically helping people get the information they need to make their own decisions, because no one else has lived their life. No one else knows what's important to them. And those are questions that usually aren't asked in the divorce process. And if we start there with their goals, what's important, what they want and need, and then say, what information do you need in order to make all these divorce decisions, and then help them come to their own agreement, it does so many things. They understand what they're agreeing to. They're looking forward instead of backward. We take the blame out of it. The discussion is not about who did what to whom or why their marriage failed. The discussion is, how can you both be as okay as possible moving forward? And by framing it in that way, so it's forward thinking, it's information bound, and they're empowered to make their own decisions instead of being, and of course I'll caveat it, it has to be within the structure of your jurisdiction, what is legal where you live.
Yeah.
You can't go off and do something that's illegal. But there's a lot of space for people to come up with better decisions within the guidelines. And then all of that process helps lower the temperature of the process. And for children, then they're not seeing their parents in court going at each other. They're seeing their parents working together to make a good decision. So even if their family is changing, and it is, it's being reshaped, but by participating in this process, what their parents are showing them is, yes, we're being reshaped, but we're working together to reshape it. We're not being adversarial. We're talking to make our decisions. And by modeling that, those kids are going to have so much less damage from the divorce process. And again, it's not saying it won't be impactful, it will. But I think it really mitigates a lot of the damage that's done when parents are pitted against each other, or they're telling their kids, your mother always does this, or your father always does that, or you love that. Then kids are stuck in the middle. It helps keep them out of it. And then the other thing that we do when we're working with people in their divorce decisions is we we don't just talk about, how many overnights they're going to have at either house, which some parenting plans, that's all they talk about. We talk about the things that come up co-parenting kids in different households. So how are you going to handle discipline? How are you going to handle new significant others? How are you going to handle communicating with the school? How are you going to handle paying for stuff that's not paid for by child support? So we help them think about that before the divorce is final so that there's a roadmap and they're not continually being thrown into all of this. We never thought about this, but there are so many unknowns there. So I think having a structured process where people know what to expect gives them a better outcome.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Brenda. It has really been amazing having this conversation. So, Brenda, for my audience who would love to connect with you, who would love either for your coaching sections or to connect with you for more information, how can they reach out to you and where is the best platform?
Through our website. We're on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and that. But through the website is the easiest way. There's information there that could be useful to people. They could sign up for a newsletter, or if they want to make an appointment and have a chat, there's a button, and it's a simple, free 15-minute kind of touch and base on where they are and what questions they have and what they, specific to them, might want to do next.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brenda. Your story your story is powerful, and it's just a reminder that even in the most, even in the life most painful transition, there is an opportunity to rebuild, rediscover, and redefine your future. Your story shows that divorce doesn't have to be the end of your stories. It can be the beginning of intentional, empower, and fulfill life. And once again, I must say it's a pleasure and a honor having you on the show, Brenda.
Thank you. I really enjoyed being here. And thank you for all you do, sharing good information with people.